I've just got a couple of questions for you guys. I think sort of starting with Faye, it was really interesting to hear how, I guess, Mother's internal processes have changed, and I think all agencies coming to grips with doing kind of proper ideas first, executions or media channels later ideas are really sort of struggling with this at the moment, particularly ones that may be from one side or the other. But what's been your experience of kind of the biggest snag in terms of getting these kind of big, juicy, ideas through? Has it been something something internal, or has it been sort of outside forces, clients, what have you?
I think it's a little of both. I mean, the thing is that the idea, there's a certain way internally that people view ideas, and so you have to sort of go through that hurdle first, right? So when we have an idea, it's not necessarily, when it comes to big idea is actually basically a rich idea in a sense where you can tell many different stories, because when you're online, people like to surf and they link to different things and so forth. So it's trying to take that story and make it understandable. Now, the problem that we face a lot is that you don't know what's going to be a hit, right? You don't know what people are going to gravitate towards. So you kind of have to put yourself out there and put your eggs in quite a few baskets, but at the same time, it's not a financial risk in the sense that you have one production giving you all these different assets. So you have to plan but way beforehand to say these are the things we're going to try to accomplish in this production. Let the production companies know. Partner up production with digital, with press, so everyone's working together around a big table at the same time, as opposed to bringing people in afterwards. I think there was a massive aversion previously when you have to do a TV shoot and you have a digital company trying to get assets out of it. You're trying to get a photographer to get assets out of it. Everyone's sort of boxing off, saying we only have a small amount of time. But I think it's on the agency to sort of realize all the elements they want to create and have everyone come in so they get the same stuff from the same shoot, which makes everything look much more cohesive.
What about you, Anders? I know you come from sort of much more of a digital angle, and Sapient do a lot of that stuff in-house, and you've got sort of a massive in-house capability. What do you find is sort of the biggest issue at the moment in getting the really great work out?
I think the biggest issue getting great work out, for us anyway, I do agree with being on that side of, like Faye said, trying to get assets from other agencies and try to make things work and work together. The biggest issue is probably that we say we live in a connected world, but it's still quite hard to get all these people around the brand to work together, to share their work, to share their assets. So if we can figure that out, and also working with the client, of course. So if we can figure out a better way of working together to achieve what we want to achieve, I think that's still the biggest challenge.
And Ollie, actually, I had a question for you. Feel free to sort of answer around what your biggest hurdle is, but particularly around the fact that you're producing really rich games for an international audience, and yet, I guess branding and marketing opportunities often happen on a more local scale. I was wondering whether you might talk at that for a little while.
Yeah, I think we've been fortunate enough to have some brands that have supported the game, our first game pretty much since day one. So we've had Nike and Red Bull in since we sort of started talking to them about the initial idea. When we first kind of put together the concept for I Am Player, we imagined that it would be quite a UK-centric concept. You kind of signed for our fictitious club called River Park FC. It's based sort of in the Championship in our world. We thought it would be sort of maybe 40-50% of the audience would be British. We did our commercial partnership deals with the kind of the UK team for Nike, the UK team for Red Bull, and the same for Alfa Romeo. They all are kind of they are all global deals in terms of not sort of IP locking the content. But what's happened as the game sort of evolved, we've found over the first 12 months of those deals, like the game has spread to places where we didn't expect it to spread to. So for example, Turkey's our biggest territory of our game at the moment. We localized about 4 weeks ago. The game had 600,000 monthly active users. We localized the game into Brazilian, Portuguese, Turkish and Spanish, and literally for the last 4 weeks we've had 100,000 new monthly active users every week. The game's gone ballistic in Turkey. I think the challenge is now, as our game's evolved, the audience that it's reaching is is not necessarily a UK-centric audience, and we have got to sort of evolve our relationships with brands and agencies to start speaking to them at a global level, because we can't sort of help it. Once you put games on Facebook, they do go global. So I think that's one of our challenges coming up. Yeah.
Great. I know we need to wind up, but just finally, if the three of you could give me an idea about what you see the real future as being. What are you most excited about in terms of creativity and technology at the moment?
For creativity, I think back to that getting to rich ideas is sort of like saying, getting out of the habit of thinking that you have to let campaigns to sort of come to life in the way it's meant to. So if you have to cover off on all different medias, sometimes just in a simple experience could lead it, and you could center an entire production around that. Sometimes a digital experience could lead it and center around that. So sometimes I think campaigns get sacrificed because you're forcing the big story into a medium that it doesn't need to be in. For example, we tend to do that a lot for television. I find that TV is almost a trailer to the rest of the idea. And once we get out of the mindset that TV commercials have to be a certain way, and sort of see it as sort of the gateway, to much more interesting stuff, I think we start to develop a lot of, rich things that breaks the mold of what we think advertising is and can be.
I think for us it's definitely mobile this year. So Facebook's growth, Facebook's mobile growth has been phenomenal, and it's kind of there was a massive wave of growth when Zynga and Playfish and all those guys sort of came into the social game scene, grew extremely rapidly. With Facebook on mobile, that's creating a kind of a new ecosystem and a new opportunity for new entrants like us to kind of grow very rapidly. So I think you're going to see some really smart games that have Facebook, mobile games that have Facebook connectivity at their heart, and so I think that's where we're focusing on.